So let me start by saying if you're feeling uncertain about what's going on in the economy right now, what's going on in the market, it seems like there is a new piece of news in the world every day that make us feel more and more uncertain about our future. If you're in that space and you're trying to figure out how do I go from here to actually having some certainty, to actually building generational wealth for my family, to making work optional, if you feel like you're meant for more than what you're already doing, if you feel like you have it in you, you just don't know the steps, that's what today is going to be all about. I remember when I first got started, I had a toddler and a newborn. And late at night, after they went to bed, I would get my phone and I would start searching how to invest in real estate, how to make work optional, finding a corporate exit strategy. And eventually, I did quit my job and became a stay at home mom and started investing in real estate on the side, except I was able to scale really fast. And that's because I didn't take any advice from what was available on the internet. Most of the advice I find on the internet that's available right now is primarily for men. And I'm going to give you some examples. Number one, it's all about creating another 9 to 5. And the reason I was trying to quit my job was not to create another 9 to 5. I wanted time with my family. That's why I wanted to quit my job. So when I became a real estate investor, I also noticed that I was running the business very differently than the men around me. Most men started their day early in the morning. They would go to Home Depot or Lowe's, and then they would pick up their staff there. They'd pick up the material for the job site there. Then they would go to the job site and they would set the guys up at the job site, figure out how they were going to do everything. And then they would go off to another job site and so on and so forth. I wanted to have breakfast with my kids. I wanted to snuggle them in the morning. And so that process didn't work for me. And I realized that very early on that I had no interest in being at the job site all day. I wanted to build a great team with systems and processes so that they could do the work while I was with my kids, and a way to monitor them and make sure everything was done on budget, on schedule, and good quality. So I had to develop my own process for that. Another example, the men that were in this space were all talking about their tenant and the late night phone calls that they were getting and how they were addressing the issues and how to do it in the cheapest way possible. On the other hand, I wanted to be at the playground with my kids during the day. I didn't want to be fixing a toilet for a tenant. And I didn't want to do it at the expense of the tenant. I wanted my tenants to be happy. I wanted to give them a really great place to live. And I wanted to create beautiful spaces where families were happy and they were thriving. But I wanted to do it while being with my kids. And guess what? When you are in business for yourself, you can develop systems and processes and have teams in place that are able to help you do that. And here is one last example. One more thing that I noticed in this industry is a lot of people were really focused on next deal and the next deal and just how do I figure out that next deal? And they really weren't focused on scalability. And my goal when I came into this business is I really wanted to build it like a business. I didn't want to run it like a mom and pop investor. And so from day one, I was looking at how do I make this into a proper business? And so early on, we moved over to commercial financing. I'd quit my job. I didn't have an income. We were a single income family. My husband still kept his job. I had a little bit of savings and I just had that finite amount of capital. I didn't have a trust fund to go with. I didn't have that extra money to be able to just go and deploy it in real estate investing. I had a little bit of money, and what I wanted to do was build it like a business and build it in a scalable way. So, what I did was did a deep dive into commercial financing. How does commercial financing work? How does it work that there are investors getting hundreds of doors while they don't have a job? It's because I did a deep dive into the world of commercial financing and understood how it works. So, you know how they say brains versus bronze? I knew that I really didn't want to do it with bronze, so I focused on the brain part. How can I be smarter about being a real estate investor and understand how the numbers work and understand how the financing worked? And that's the leverage that I was going to use as opposed to being at the job site all the time, having a trust fund to back me up, having a lot of time, having construction know how. I had none of that. And so if you're a woman trying to figure out how to go from where you're at now to becoming a real estate investor and making work optional, I'm going to tell you right now that majority of the advice that's available to us on the internet, I know that there's lots of podcasts and books and there's short content that's easy to scroll and numb yourself from whatever's going on during your day. And there's enough information available out there, but I'm going to tell you right now that majority of that information is not going to be applicable to women because we don't run businesses the way men run businesses. Most women who come into the world of real estate investing later after having children, most women who come into this world do it because they want to build wealth for their family and they want time and location freedom. They don't do it because they just want another source of income and they want to give up their time for that. We do it because we want time with our family. And some of the women that we work with, they're taking care of aging parents. They have little kids that they want to spend time with. They want to spend time on themselves. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're doing it just because of your own personal goals and you want to chase joy and freedom, that's what it's all about. And that's why women do this. And so our goals are very different. Our reasons for doing this are very different. And that's why how we execute real estate investing is going to be very different. So, my first step for you is stop consuming the content that doesn't apply to you. Think about the method of execution, not just the strategy.